important to acknowledge that, the families that are here today are still grieving. The leadership that is here is still is supporting the families that are here. I think the recent arrests in Thunder Bay have shed a light on the issues we are here to address. Those charges have breathed new life into the investigations that need to be properly examined. We stand here today alongside the Munias, Aski, and the Osberg families. These families have been left without credible investigations into the deaths that happened recently of their loved ones by the Thunder Bay Police Service. We cannot continue to let these cases go unresolved. All of those charges that came about last week, a few weeks ago, I would like to acknowledge the complainants that made those charges happen and bringing forward the complaints against the leadership of Thunder Bay Police. The Munias, the Aski, the Osberg families need support from this government to move investigations out of Thunder Bay Police Service into the hands of service capable of conducting credible investigations. We cannot let the continued corruption of the upper echelons of the police service, Thunder Bay Police Service, and the incompetence to prevail. We also must recognize that this issue, this just does not affect First Nations. It impacts the entire Thunder Bay community. As leaders, we have to ensure that our police service, your police service, is transparent, that it's just, and held accountable. We have a number of speakers today that will leadership, but also families that will be addressing this issue. At this time, I'd like to invite Grand Chief Fiddler from the Nishnawbe Aski Nation to make some comments.
Yeah, miigwech, Saul. Miigwech, and thank you to all of you for joining us here this morning. I also just want to acknowledge the leadership that's sitting up here with me. Deputy Grand Chief Annabetty Hatshepeshkam and Grand Chief Nishnawbe, miigwech for joining us. Chief Munias, Chief Kaminotaman. I also want to just acknowledge the families that are here with us this morning. The family members of the late Jenna Osberg from Bearskin Lake, family members of the late Mackenzie Munias from Nishnawbe, and the family members of the late Corey Aski from Martin Falls. Some of the parents are here. Grandparents, the aunties and uncles, and some of the siblings of those families are here with us this morning, and I know how difficult and how painful it must be for them to be here. So I just want to thank them for being able to join us here this morning. We are here today to tell you that the Thunder Bay Police Service has turned into a cold case factory when it comes to investigations into the deaths of Indigenous peoples. There is a complete lack of trust. Everything has broken down. Even with all these reports that have been done over the years, whether it was by Justice Sinclair or the Broken Trust Report, or more recently the expert panel, the report that was just released some time ago, and all the recommendations that have been contained in those reports, that nothing has happened, nothing has been done, and everything has broken down, and it can't be fixed. The families of Jenna, Mackenzie, and Corey are left with no recourse for credible investigations into the loss of their loved ones, and they are not alone. There's a whole list of other families that are still waiting for answers into what happened to their loved ones, why and how they died in Thunder Bay. Today, these three families have filed complaints with the Inspector General of Policing of Ontario because of the complete and utter failure of the Thunder Bay Police Service to conduct investigations into the deaths of Indigenous peoples. We are here to support them in their call for the disbandment of the Thunder Bay Police Service and the appointment of a new police service to investigate these losses. Legal counsel for the families, Julian Faulkner, will explain more about these complaints in a few minutes. Thank you again for being here with us this morning. Miigwech.
At this time, I'm going to invite Deputy Grand Chief Annabedi Ajinipiskam, Deputy Grand, from the Nishnawbe Nation.
Mache. My name is Anna Betty Ajinipiskam, and I serve as a Deputy Grand Chief of Nishnawbe Aski Nation. I'm here to stand with the leadership and the families. And I have stood with many families in the past decade and a half, whether it was at the 7 Youth Inquest or the Broken Trust families, because there have been many reports. There's been many events such as this where we have raised our voices and our concerns, and the situation continues to be the same. I want those that have the authority and the responsibility, that are administering justice and policing, to look through the eyes of these family members here and other family members. It is very important that you hear their words and that you hear our recommendations as well. As you may know, there are 13 reinvestigations at this time that the OPP have titled Cedar Project. And those 13 deaths were identified through the Broken Trust. And there are many others. And we will continue to address those as well. Our people continue to have serious concerns with the Thunder Bay Police Service and its in its ability to conduct competent investigations into the death of First Nations people in the city of Thunder Bay. Furthermore, the recent charges against the former chief of police, Sylvia Hoth, and the in-house legal counsel have only worsened the lack of trust into the Thunder Bay Police. And I also want to acknowledge the officers and other civilians who raised complaints. Those have to also be taken into consideration as we proceed. Unfortunately, it seems that some people cannot comprehend why this is an issue or a concern for us. But as you hear from the families, as you look at the photos of their loved ones that they are going to show you, please remember that these were individuals that were loved and that they meant a lot. And their death shouldn't have happened. And it shouldn't be just a death to be cast aside like they don't matter. We will continue to support the families and other families that we are working with to ensure that as we proceed that we are going to call for a disbandment of the Thunder Bay Police. Back in 2022, I stood here at Queen's Park and shared those same words, and yet we still have not received any results from that. So on behalf of the families, I'm very grateful that I'm here, but I wish I didn't have to be here to address this, as we have done many times. Chimingwich.
Miigwech, Deputy Grand Chief Anabetti, Achinebascum. Yet we are here. Up next, I'm going to ask Grand Council Chief Reg Nishnawbe from Nishnawbe Nation.
Oni Buju, Kwingit Inishnakas Mesbelging Donjaba Nemedorum, Grand Council Chief Reg Nishnawbe and Nishnawbe Nation. First, I'd like to say thank you to Nan for inviting me to be here today to do a little bit of the speaking, and thank you to the families for having the courage to be here today to say what you're about to say and you know, express what you're feeling from your hearts, what you need the rest of the people here in Ontario to understand. And thanks the Nishnawbe Nation for the opportunity to also be here, and thank you to MPP Saul Mamakwa and the NDP leadership for being present and being able to hear this. When I got this invite, I was, of course, very dismayed. I had seen the news reports that had come out about the arrests that were made and the charges that were laid. We were here last time, me and Annie Betty, for this exact same issue. And at that time, she told me, you know, the families that are impacted by this and how long she's been fighting this and getting this message out and how much of a priority it is. And of course, at that time, we were promised the world again, once again, and all these changes and different things would happen. But here we are again. We're finding out more and more details. Nishnawbe Nation and NAN have some shared priorities on this. We support them fully, all the way in this endeavor. We do have, of course, concern for our people. Nishnawbe Nation has Fort William, which is adjacent to Thunder Bay right there. We have concern for our people in our areas, both of us, both NAN and Nishnawbe Nation. We have concern for our people who live there in Thunder Bay. We have citizens in Thunder Bay who have been calling for some of this and filing some of these human rights complaints, and we fear for their safety. Because the people who are supposed to be administering justice and accountability at their top levels, with their police chief and their legal, have just been charged with an obstruction of justice. How do you trust people to deliver justice who are being charged with obstructing it in the first place? There definitely needs to be an accountability with the Thunder Bay Police Services going forward. And if it's without them, then of course accountability with the next group that does deliver police services there, if that is the case. And of course, there needs to be accountability across all facets of that area for the safety of the people that they're servicing. And of course, those recent arrests and charges are a start to that. Hopefully we can see some justice come from that too. That is still a long way off. So in closing, I'd just like to say, Nishnawbe Nation stands with the Nishnawbe Aski Nation in regards to the systemic racism that has led to the marginalization of our people. Our people are still being pushed to the edge of society, and they do not deserve this inequality they continue to experience firsthand within the city of Thunder Bay. We continue to work alongside NAN and the Indigenous Advisory Committee and other entities to ensure justice prevails. We demand transparency, accountability, and trust. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Grand Chief Nishnawbe. Up next, I'm going to ask the leadership Chief Chris Munias from Niskandaga.
Bonjour, good morning. As I was sitting there waiting for my turn, I just got a message that a youth from up north has passed away. So, kind of shooken up my nephew's girlfriend. So, all the discussions we've been having, the press conference and everything, I don't want to. I must remind you that I don't want to forget the families that are here. The reason why they're here is for their loved ones to be heard, so they can so proper investigations can be done. That's the reason why we're here as Niskandaga. After so many years of knowing the poison that is the Thunder Bay Police Service, we shouldn't be surprised when we continue to face racism and oppression. And we shouldn't be surprised to hear that left unchecked, the poison within the service has gotten worse. You can remove the head from the snake, but another will grow and continue on the same path. There must be changes. When our young Mackenzie went missing in Thunder Bay, just a few months after she began high school to pursue further education, because we don't have high schools in the north, our children are forced to leave at the age of 13, 14 years old. We should be able to count on police service to take a missing child seriously when it's reported. Instead, we are reminded of the festering poison that is allowed to continue. When Mackenzie's grandmother reported her missing, she was not taken seriously. She went to the station on 3 occasions before they finally acknowledged Mackenzie as a missing person. 3 days after she went missing. I often lay awake in the night, wondering if the 3 days would have made a difference. I still question myself that. I also wonder if she had been white, would the police had responded right away? And I attribute this to the racism and oppression of Thunder Bay Police. Mackenzie was robbed of her life and future. Her family and friends were robbed of her bright light. It's been 4 months, and the detectives assigned to Mackenzie's case has not approached the family to update them. Even though we heard ourselves in person that they were going to be updated regularly. Does it take 4 months or more as a regular update? I don't think so. Should happen more frequently. Again, why did it take 3 days for her to for the missing persons to be filed? We stood around at the marina waiting for police to come, and nobody showed up. Sorry, I get, especially our youth. I have passion for the youth, for our youth. We need something done for Mackenzie. We need a proper investigation done. We need a credible investigator assigned with the appropriate resources to make sure that investigation is done properly, and that the family will be able to have closure of what happened to her. We need that. How are we going to get that? There's a lot of options to get to that. Whether it be bringing somebody, another police force or another police service to do it, I don't know. But something needs to be done, because this investigation right now, her case right now, there is nothing being done. I got you.
Miigwech, Chief Munias. Up next, I'm going to call up Chief Lefty Kaminoadaman from Bearskin Lake First Nation.
Good morning. Okay, this morning I've asked the father of the late Jenna Osberg to stand beside me to hold her picture, just to see who she was and who should have been. And this morning, my name is Lefty Kaminoadaman. I'm the chief of Bearskin Lake, the home community of Vincent and Melanie Osberg, who are here with me this morning. You know, Bearskin Lake is a remote community that is 425 kilometers north of Sulcoat. It is only accessible by air, year-round, except on Winter Road during the winter months of January to March. Approximately 480 people live on the reserve, but the majority, the other half, live in urban centers, and around the country, and mostly in Thunder Bay, Sulcoat, and Dryden area. We are a tight-knit community, so it is always sad to see people leaving leaving our community, but we understand and support their decisions to go, because many of them, they are leaving in search of better opportunities and better standard of living. They leave to find work and to find better schooling for their children and better housing and health care for their families. Like many of our homes in the northern remote communities are overcrowded, in our healthcare system, the services are not easily accessible as in urban centers. So we usually have mixed feelings when they leave, but because we know that they are searching for a better way of life, we wish them the best and pray for their safety while they are away. We want to see them thrive and grow and find a better life for themselves and their children. And we expect police services to be there for them to support them when they are needed and always to ensure that they are safe. On December 30, 2023, Jenna Osberg was found dead in a home on Ray Boulevard in Thunder Bay. Jenna was only 21 years old. She had her whole life in front of her. At the time of her death, we were told that the Thunder Bay Police had received three calls relating to Jenna's situation. None of these calls were responded to until it was too late. We are certain that if the police had responded at that very moment, the very first call, that young Jenna would have been still alive today with us. And her whole life would have been still been in front of her. Today we grieve her. And we don't understand how could this have happened. To the police services of Thunder Bay and to the new chief of police, Darcy Fleury, we need an explanation, and we need it now. Why didn't the police respond to the first call on that fateful night of December 30th? Was the call deemed unimportant, a nuisance, or was it because the people involved were First Nations? These are the things we need to know. We cannot rest or be at peace until we have the answers. Police services are supposed to protect us at all times. Jenna needed the police to intervene, help her that very night. But they never arrived. Help never arrived. We need answers now, and we demand justice. Justice for Jenna and her family. Justice for all First Nations people living in Thunder Bay. Where were you, Thunder Bay Police, when the call was made and Jenna needed your help? I'll leave it at that. We will wait for the answer.
Up next, I'm going to call up Vincent Osberg, the father of late Jenna Osberg.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Vincent Osberg, and I'm from the Bearskin Lake First Nation. I live in Thunder Bay with my family. Jenna Osberg was 21 years old, and she was a graduate of the Confederation College with the College Access Program. She was trying to get her driver's license, and she had a plan to live, to eventually find a career path. She was also an advocate of Every Child Matters. When these 911 calls were made, the police did not attend. As said earlier, we need to end racial bias and systematic racism. I had to do my own investigation because the Thunder Bay Police did not come to us. Nobody reached out to us. everything we found out was through the media. Whether it was the SIU investigation on the Thunder Bay Police, that's what happened. But what we're asking for is that we don't have faith, we don't have any trust with the Thunder Bay Police. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more. I also want to say that we are calling for the disbandment of the Thunder Bay Police Service, and we want the Thunder Bay Police Board dissolved. There is far too much corruption in the upper level. The corruption has gone down from the top to some of their officers. When I was submitting my investigation, I gathered as many facts in issue related to that, having been a former police officer, trained level 3 with the Ontario Provincial Police. I was also trained in interrogation and interview tactics by the OPP. And I want to point out that the case, I had provided handwriting analysis to the media through my wife. It was actually my wife that provided to the media. I told the Thunder Bay Police that I have handwriting analysis. I submitted samples to them because I wanted a handwriting analysis that was allegedly her note on her arm. I also asked for a reenactment of the scene because there are so many contradictory statements made from the coroner's office and the Thunder Bay Police. Facts change as they go along. That's not right. Nobody wants to give us the answers. Nobody wants to reach out to us. Nobody wants to talk to us. My daughter had to go for a body mop at the Thunder Bay Regional Health Science Center in October for an aggravated assault. When I had told the investigating officer, his response was, she's probably just going for a sexually transmitted disease. Numerous times I've said there was an aggravated assault. And that's the attitude they have. A very racist attitude. It's like we don't care. And they don't care. Obviously, they don't care. There's a need for proper interrogation and interview tactics. Not just some statement gathered and just tossed aside, okay, but a proper and thorough investigation. Apparently, Thunder Bay Police Service are incompetent. They don't have this training, but here I am, an Indigenous person. I was trained as an officer. I did major occurrences, benchmark notifications. And if you have questions about it with further clarification as to what these techniques are, I can tell you. But I also want to let you know that our family suffered. You know, we got into a vehicle accident. I've had psychological trauma where I've had, you know, I don't know, I just couldn't focus. You know, everything was just, when I was driving, I just couldn't focus. Everything was getting all spaced out on me. That's the psychological trauma that I've endured. I've had to deal with the media. We've had to deal with the media, my wife and I. Our kids had to deal with the media who asked questions. They wanted to know, but we withheld from making statements until we thought investigations would be complete. But the investigation is apparently not complete from what I can know and understand. And it's been since December 30th. You'd think by now something would be done, that there'd be answers, but there's no answers for us or other families. I want to send my condolences to the families, for the families of Mackenzie Munoz, Corey Bolesky, Stacy DeBungy, Robert Muscatelin. These are unresolved investigations. There are many more things concerning Thunder Bay, whether they're committing assaults on Indigenous people, because I know people who've been assaulted. I know of a person who's been taken on a Starlight tour, dropped out in the middle of a highway in the cold weather. You know, this kind of stuff has to end. Again, we got to dissolve the police board of Thunder Bay and dissolve the Thunder Bay Police Service. We need a competent police service in Northern Ontario. Our people need to be safe. We need to be safe. We are people. We are educated. We are good citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Up next, I'm going to ask Vanessa Sakani. She's the mother of late Mackenzie Munias.
No. Sure. Hello? Hello, Mackenzie Monas's mother. Um, we need answers. Uh, um, the loss of my daughter, Mackenzie Monas, needs to be resolved and fully investigated. We never got answers from the police, and they promised us everything, but no one ever contacted us yet. Just only on the no January, I think, just for an OSR from the school and TD Bank activity account. That's all. And I asked if they had any updates, at least something, but they said no, nothing at all. And I know I know something went wrong there that night. I want justice for my daughter, Mackenzie Munoz. I don't want to talk. Mm. Here.
Hello. Good morning. My name is Sharon Sakani, and Lade Mackenzie was my niece and also my godchild. I was in the city when she went missing. I was about to go home that day, but I stayed back and I started searching. I even did my own investigation. I went looking for the youth that was with Mackenzie that night. There was three different youth that were with her. I went to go question them because the Thunder Bay police didn't start the investigating. They didn't even it took time. It took a few days, which isn't right for a missing child, 14-year-old child.
So I went ahead and did that, asked questions where or when she was last seen. And that's when we focused our search at the Marina Park. Because that's where she was last seen. And, and when we were searching at the Marina Park, this person came up stating that one of the youths was in the water that night. And, the authorities were in the premises twice in the area. And I don't know why they couldn't locate Mackenzie. There was 2 calls that night at the Marina Park in the vicinity. And that first call, they took a youth out of the water and was taken to the hospital. And I don't know why, And those other youth mentioned there was 4 of them. And there was only 3 accounted for. There's so much where, they should have tried to locate that 4th youth, since there was 4 of them that went to that park that night and only 3 came out. So we need answers. I was with the family. I was with the mother, Vanessa, when that investigator said, "We're gonna find out what happened. We're gonna give you answers," and they haven't done that. We're still waiting for answers today, and we need answers. She was only 14 years old. She's gone. She was robbed of her life. So the investigation needs to continue, but not from the Thunder Bay Police. Because I've seen and heard like what they did, even when my mother went to go report her missing. It seems like she wasn't taken seriously. So I hope we open these doors for the families here and other families that never got justice or proper investigation into their loved ones. Okay, miigwech.
Miigwech, for your words to the families of Vanessa, Mackenzie. But also thank you to the family members and the leadership of Niskanaga for bringing families out. At this time, I'm going to get the Bileski family, Donna and Colleen, to come up. The sister of Donna is a sister of the late Corey Bileski. Colleen is the mother of late Corey.
Yep. Good morning. My name is Donna Boleski. I'm the sister of late Corey Boleski. November 1st, 2022, changed our lives. Corey was my only sibling. He was a very caring and protective brother, always looking out for me and my children. Corey had a partner and a stepson who he loved very much. He was a very good father. He liked to go on walks with his family. He liked to play video games with his son. And we really enjoyed getting together for family barbecues. There has been a hole in our hearts since he was taken from us. Nothing has been the same. There's been a lack of communication between the Thunder Bay Police and my family. Most communication that has been made has been us reaching out to them. They haven't been telling us, so they haven't really been telling us anything, just that they keep telling us they're actively investigating. It's been 1 year, 5 months, and 21 days since my brother was taken from us. And my family, we still know nothing. We don't even know his exact cause of death. We have so many questions and no answers. We feel like the Thunder Bay Police forgot about my brother and our family. Go ahead, Mom.
Hi, my name's Colleen Boleski. Corey was my baby. Corey Boleski was only 31 years old when he got taken from us. He was a loving and caring man. He loved all his family. He loved his son, Jace. I'm sorry. But as a parent, we remember the day our child was born. And unfortunately for some of us here today, there's another day that we'll never forget, and that's the day our child was taken from us. The day we bury our child. The happiest day for me was when my son was born. And the saddest day was when he was taken from us. The Thunder Bay Police need to do their jobs. They need to forget about the skin color of people. Because regardless of what, Corey meant the world to me and my family. So Corey needs to get justice as well as these other families here. For me as a mom to Corey, I will never stop. I will try to keep fighting for my son. And I will. I will bring those people to justice that murdered my son. Police can't do it here in Thunder Bay. Well, we'll get somebody else to do it for us. Sorry, that's it for me.
Miigwech, Pauline. Miigwech, Donna. At this time, I'm going to ask Julian Faulkner, legal counsel for the complaints, for providing leading the complaints for the families. And he will talk about the details of the complaints and also the role of the Inspector General of Policing.
Good morning. I want to acknowledge the families who have shown the courage to come to the South and plead for options. Corey Bileski died on November 1st, 2022. Mackenzie Munoz passed on December 18th, 2023. And Jenna Osberg died on December 30th, 2023. When trust is gone, absolutely obliterated, there is no way to put the genie back in the bottle. When trust is gone, there is no way to credibly put lipstick on a pig and tell you that a police service all of a sudden is functional. No Indigenous family, thinking reasonably, could trust the work of the Thunder Bay Police Service. No one in the country would challenge these three families for their inability to trust the Thunder Bay Police Service. Everyone would accept that you cannot trust the Thunder Bay Police Service in respect of the investigation of an Indigenous person. So why on earth are these families left with no options? Why are they being asked to trust the untrustable? They have nowhere else to turn. They're desperate. Now, because I'm a lawyer and I use what they call PowerPointless, I have a PowerPoint for you. Now, it's to simply give you quickly, not a speech, quickly, the history, because the facts have piled up and become so complicated of the different findings in respect of the Thunder Bay Police Service. I would be doing a disservice to these families if I didn't set out for you what this sad story looks like and what has been placed in front of the Inspector of Policing. So I start. Does anyone in the room doubt that a credible death investigation requires two things: timeliness and community trust, right? You know the standard lines, the first 24 hours. Community trust. If there is no trust, there is no ability to interview witnesses. If there is no trust, there's no knowledge of the community. If there is no trust, there is no access to witnesses. The 7 youth inquest was as a result of tragedies. You heard Chief Munoz speak about this very point, having to send their youth to schools in Thunder Bay hundreds of miles from their home communities and having to trust the city of Thunder Bay, including the Thunder Bay Police Service, with the lives of their youth. And we all know how that's gone. It resulted in 145 recommendations, directed, among other things, at the Thunder Bay Police Service. Those recommendations haven't been implemented. Next slide, please. Stacey DeBungy passed away on October 19th, 2015. His death led to the OIPRD systemic complaint, ultimately producing a report in December of 2018 called Broken Trust. I have been practicing, I've had the honor, and I'm really old, of practicing law for some 34 years. I can tell you, as a practitioner in this area of policing, this is the first report to ever declare an entire police service systemically racist. This hasn't happened before. Yes, the Thunder Bay Police Service in December of 2018. It came from this death, a death in which the scene of Stacy DeBungy was not protected. No photos of the scene were taken. No exhibits seized. No witnesses of any significance interviewed. This is the work of the Thunder Bay Police Service. The report, Broken Trust, speaks directly to the reality that police officers engage in racial stereotyping that involves transforming individual experiences into generalized assumptions about an identifiable group defined by race. Officers repeatedly relied on generalized notions about how Indigenous people likely came to their deaths and acted or refrained from acting based on those biases. There is no report like this in the history of policing in Canada. That's December 2018. That's 5.5 years ago. And what's the latest news on the Thunder Bay Police Service? Well, the latest news is their most recent chief of police is criminally charged with obstruct justice. And the most recent news is that the lead lawyer for the Thunder Bay Police Service is criminally charged with obstruct justice. That's how much they've evolved over 6 years. But what's happened between then and now? Next slide, please. A whole series of recommendations came out of the Broken Trust report. Recommendations for a multidisciplinary investigative team. Recommendations for a team to look at the DeBungy death and whether it should be reinvestigated. The recommendations in respect of a protocol for determining if other sudden deaths need to be reinvestigated. And who was at the heart? A member of the committee looking at these things? Next slide, please. Who was at the heart of it? Well, by 2021, and we went public about this, we learned, of course, that Broken Trust really was broken record. That Sylvia Hoth, you know, the very chief of police they've now charged with obstruct justice, well, she's a key committee member running this. And guess what? The lawyer who was most active in running this is Holly Walborn. Yes, recently in the last 2 weeks charged with obstruct justice. Broken trust is a broken record. Next slide, please. By March 2022, APTN reported that a new blended investigation team, which includes officers from a number of agencies, identified 14 new Indigenous death investigations that needed to be reinvestigated. Yes, because the Thunder Bay Police Service have been trusted with them. Okay, now let's go back to the basic two things that mark a credible police investigation. One, timeliness. How are we doing for timeliness? Years are going by. Cases are being reinvestigated, case after case. Oh, and community trust. How are we doing with community trust? You would have to actually be blind to what's going on around you to trust the Thunder Bay Police Service with an Indigenous death. You would have to be blind. Next slide, please. The number of reviews and new administrators are mind-boggling. We cover it in a slide. I won't read it to you. It'll be made available to you. Next slide, please. By July 2022, 7 years after the death of Stacy DeBungy, a decision was arrived at by a police tribunal declaring the lead investigator, Sean Harrison, guilty of discreditable conduct for a racist death investigation. That's right. First of its kind in Canada that I know of, where a finding of misconduct against a police officer was for a racist police investigation. Of course, because it was such a good job, you know, I didn't do it. It was my business partner, Asha James, over there, who ran that case. But the bottom line, is there can be no doubt that the problem persists. Says the adjudicator, there is no doubt whatsoever in my mind that Staff Sergeant Harrison decided very early on the death was non-suspicious. I'm equally convinced that because the deceased person was Indigenous, right? He assumed the very circumstances must have existed in this case as with any other Indigenous man found drowned. It's called racism. Next slide, please. And so what does this government do? With everything you're seeing, what does this government do? Well, they start propping up the board. They don't listen to Grand Chief Fiddler. They don't listen to Deputy Grand Chief Achni Penescom. They don't listen to First Nations leadership. They don't disband the service. They try propping it up. And so, following broken trust, they select an administrator. Yes, an administrator with absolutely no background in policing, an administrator with no Indigenous cultural competency, absolutely a stranger to the Indigenous community named Tom Lockwood. In less than 2 years, on June 2020, he declared the Thunder Bay Police Services Board and the Chief of Police with a clean bill of health. And he withdrew, saying it's all fixed. Look it up. Yes, that's right, Chief Sylvie Hoth. You know, the one that just got criminally charged with obstruct justice. Yeah, she's the clean bill of health. Within less than 2 years, by April 2022, predictably, the Ontario government had to appoint a second administrator, but they are consistent. Malcolm Mercer has no background in policing, no Indigenous cultural competency, and is unknown to Indigenous community. That's the second administrator. He's still administering to this day. And during his watch, Chief Sylvie Hoth is charged criminally with obstruct justice. During his watch, the lead lawyer for the Thunder Bay Police Service is charged criminally with obstruct justice. And now we know that in Thunder Bay, the new normal is for your chief of police to be charged criminally because that's what happened with J.P. Levesque. So what do we have? Next slide, please. We find out that under something called Project Cedar, there's 13 more death investigations going on. Next slide. The criminal charges we've talked about. Next slide. What has happened? Grand Chief Fiddler called it a cold case factory. We call it a pileup. Death after death after death after death. And these families are staring at the same reality again. Their death, their loved one goes in the pileup. They referred Stacey DeBungy's case for criminal investigation 3 years ago. Brad DeBungy has not heard back what happened. I'm their lawyer. I have not heard back. All that is happening, and I have never seen this in my 34 years, is that death after death of Indigenous people goes into some bizarre conveyor belt that piles up due to the need for reinvestigation, for which the Ontario government does not put adequate resources, and the pileup continues. Next slide, please. The Inspector General is being asked to do the right thing, to help these families who have nowhere to turn and assign credibly trusted investigative bodies. It is no use for Chief Fleury to tell us Indigenous people can trust the Thunder Bay Police Service. It is no use, and it is a waste of breath. As an example, following the finding against Detective Sergeant Harrison for a racist police investigation in the same year, by December 2023, get this, Chief Fleury approved a special commendation for Detective Sergeant Harrison as Employee of the Month for the Thunder Bay Police Service. Look it up. It is no use to say trust us. They need to be removed. You need a new body and they need to be removed. The Inspector of Policing has the power to do it. 2 complaints have been filed on behalf of the Osberg family and on behalf of the Bolesky family. It is simply a matter of time, and I'm working with the family of Mackenzie Munoz and the leadership of Nishnawbe, and they will instruct me at the right time to file their complaint. But the point is, all of these families are united in their intentions to find a credible investigation. I'm sorry this took so long. Telling the sordid story of the Thunder Bay Police Service is taking longer and longer. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Process underway that could lead to the dissolution of the reverse. I was going to say one thing.
Thank you to the families, the leadership for telling your story. I know for sure this is not a simple problem that we cannot solve overnight. We know that. Whatever the ultimate plan is, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to work better than what we have now. We must all work together to bring about the necessary reforms and to ensure that no families have to endure the pain and the frustration of unresolved cases any longer. At this time, I'm going to pass off my, facilitating this press conference to Grand Chief Fiddler. I have to go to the bells ringing for question period, and I'll pass it off to him. Miigwech.
Thank you, Saul. If any reporter has any questions for the families or for the legal counsel or for leadership, we'll take them now.
Okay. Sal and hey, I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So, Mr. Falconer, you mentioned the Inspector General has been asked to dissolve the police service already. Can you explain how that works and what the likelihood of that succeeding is?
In January of this year, and it's referred to in the complaints that I believe are being made accessible to the media here as part of their media package, at a NAN Chiefs Assembly, in answer to a very direct question, and Nishnawbe is known for their very direct questions, in answer to a very direct question from Chief Chris Munoz, Deputy Minister Mario Di Tommaso answered, in respect of the Thunder Bay Police, that is why we have an Inspector General of Policing. That was his answer, and it's laid out in the complaint. The Inspector General of Policing is a new official under the new legislation. He's specifically mandated to work with and provide remedies to failures of police services to meet adequacy standards. And so, yes, the short answer is yes, he has the power. He has to. Otherwise, what's the point of the quality control? He's not there to be their buddies. He's there to fix it. This is the unfixable.
Grand Chief Fiddler, if you were to get the Thunder Bay Police dissolved, it would have to be replaced with something, and that new force would probably have to hire new officers. And it seems likely, at least to me, that the people who would likely be hired to staff this new police service would be the same officers who are currently working in Thunder Bay now. How do you expect dissolving the Thunder Bay Police to result in any change if it's just going to be a repackaging of the same officers you have a problem with?
Well, the reason why we're having this press conference here right in Queen's Park is to ensure that the government hears us, that the minister responsible for policing hears us and that he reaches out to us and the families. I think we need to, our hope following today's press conference is that the government reaches out to us, that we need to have a follow-up discussion with our community, with our leadership, with provincial government for us to talk about what is the next step. You've heard from the families, you've heard from the leadership that they want the Thunder Bay Police Service and the board to be dissolved right away. And now the next step is we need to talk about what is that interim next step. And if it involves a combination of existing police services, whether it's the OPP or the APS and Indigenous Police Services or NAPS, I think that's what we're open to. But we need to have this discussion right away.
Can I just add something to what Grand Chief said? And it's this, and this is strictly from a lawyer's point of view. Understand that the way governance works of police services is that right now the Thunder Bay Police Service is answerable to one set of leaders, the local leadership in Thunder Bay, the local municipal leadership in Thunder Bay. I don't think there can be any doubt now that the Thunder Bay Police are precisely what the local leadership in Thunder Bay want. They're doing exactly what they want them to do. The difference with the OPP and any outside service is they would be accountable to other leadership beyond the municipal leadership in Thunder Bay. And by being accountable beyond Thunder Bay, you do produce different results. Sorry, Grand Chief, I just wanted to add to that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, okay. You go for it.
One to the solicitor while he's at the mic. I'm just going to cut in here for a second.
Go ahead.
Solicitor, Julian, there's a lot of legal actions happening each which way. Could you just outline all of the legal actions that are happening right now, both on a criminal, from your investigative point of view, and a civic lawsuit?
No, I can't. I can't, because it is totally opaque what investigations they're doing and not doing. We've heard of something called Project Cedar. We've heard of APTN announcements of multiple death investigations. The 7 youths whose deaths date all the way back to 1995. Their deaths, in some cases, are still the subject of reinvest. So I can't tell you the different processes because it's secret. It's not transparent. Secondly, in terms of processes, there's very few legal avenues families can take. The one that is now being pursued is this Inspectorate of Policing. They don't have another lawsuit. There's no class action. So this is it. This complaint, this new body that the Deputy Minister, Mario Di Tommaso, told NAN chiefs publicly was the place to go, now has the responsibility to do the right thing, create options for these families outside of the Thunder Bay Police Service, and remove what is a proxy for a police service.
Hail from Queen's Park today again. So I just want to be clear. How firm are you on the idea that this police service needs to be dissolved? We had some of the other leadership say that if there needs to be a new person, that's a good idea. But it seemed like you, and then you were just saying that you wanted the government to talk to you. So just to be clear, if the government decides not to dissolve the Thunder Bay Police Service and tries to reform it again in whatever way they want to say, would that be acceptable, or is dissolution the only acceptable solution here?
No. Yeah, this is the call that we're making today, the families and the leadership, to dissolve the Thunder Bay Police Service and the board is not new.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that we said a number of years ago when these reports were being completed and released, that we wanted to, like, there's this, it's like a bad movie repeating over and over again. And you've heard from the families that they've had enough, that there's just absolutely no trust at all with the Thunder Bay Police Service, and that you cannot keep propping up Ontario. The government cannot just they cannot keep sending administrators to Thunder Bay to try to prop up the Thunder Bay Police Service. It's gotten worse.
And the last time this came up, we asked the solicitor General at the time, Sylvia Jones, whether she was willing to dissolve the Thunder Bay Police. And she didn't say no exactly, but we have a new Solicitor General now. And the government, the PC government, is very pro-police. They have always said that they always say that they have police's backs. And I'm sure we'll try to ask the new Solicitor General about this today. But if he shoots down this idea of dissolving the police service and says he won't do it, what would that say to you?
It means that they don't care about these families. It means that they don't care about the people that we've lost. Mackenzie, whether it's Mackenzie, whether it's Jenna, whether it's Corey and others, and that they don't care about these families that are here, that are looking for answers, that they're desperately looking for answers. And that's why we made a point of traveling hundreds of miles to Queen's Park here in Toronto so that they can hear us, that they can hear directly from the families. And I know they're listening. I know they're listening.
Hello. Hi. My question is, how would you expect this complaint to the Inspector General to be handled differently than the previous complaints? Would be to Julian or Alvin? How would you expect this complaint to be handled differently than the previous complaints that have been made?
Well, first of all, being handed out right now are press materials that include the complaints. So you'll be able to see firsthand for yourselves what the family's concerns are. But secondly, what you need to know is the powers identified for the Inspector of Policing are new. So one of the common refrains we heard in the past is, my powers are limited. They're not limited anymore. But the utter, complete absence of trust and this literal cold case factory means something extreme has to be done. And so what we expect that's new is that we stop the fraudulent police service, number one. And number two, real resources are provided to the OPP to clear this backlog. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. This number of deaths all being reinvestigated at once and all creeping along years and years later, including the death of Stacey DeBungy. So that's what's new. What's new is the powers of the Inspector of Policing.
Thank you for that question. Any more questions for the leadership or the families? I'm sorry. Okay.
We can turn things to online questions now. Thanks to the journalists for joining us online. Please state your name and outlet. Your first question comes from Willow Fiddler. Willow, please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. We can.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for taking our questions. I mean, the other reporters have already asked the questions I wanted to in terms of expectations for, new outcomes. Can you speak to maybe the cases that the older cases that have been sent to the OPP for reinvestigation last year sometime, I believe? Can you speak to maybe any progress with those cases in terms of being reinvestigated, with accountability and credibility that you guys are asking for? And would that be an option that you guys could these newer cases would be handed over to the OPP, for example?
Yeah, miigwech, Willow. Deputy Grand Chief Annabelle Achiabnescam, who's been involved on this file, will answer your question.
Thank you.
Okay, we met with Randy Wright, who was assigned by the OPP at the very beginning to voice our concerns and that we were our expectations. And now there is a new commanding officer in place, and we, that in itself concerned us because of the transition. So, and they are not resourced properly. There has to be more, resources for them. And At this time, we are told that aside from the initial introduction with the families, there has been very little progress made in terms of they are collecting information from the Thunder Bay Police, and we have a concern about that as well. Like we asked them, are you sure that the information is is it complete? And so we're concerned about that as well. We will continue to have conversations with the OPP and the lead on that Project Cedar. And also we will ensure that the families are well taken care of, because we're concerned about that as well. And that is something that we have talked to the OPP about, and we will ensure that, that the needs of the family are met.
And just to quickly add to that, in one of his slides, Julian showed you the attempts that have been made to give families that have been searching for answers to their loved ones. They had this blended investigation team that was set up a number of years ago, which comprised of members of the OPP, other police services like APS, NAPS also was involved. But the issue, there was a flaw to that process, and that is that the Thunder Bay Police were actually left to be in charge. It was housed within the Thunder Bay Police detachment, and it caused a lot of frustration. The lead investigator for that was one of the retired OPP officers. His name is Ken Leppert. And he was just met with obstacle after obstacle that the Thunder Bay Police just refused to fully cooperate with respect to those investigations. So that was in one of the slides that Julian showed you earlier. Any other questions for the families? Okay. Yep, go ahead. And we'll maybe take one more after this, and then
I think we all have to go to Chris question period.
Okay.
First of all, my name's James. I'm with City TV. Solicitor, explain, Google searching Cedar Project, you don't get anything. So explain the Cedar and where, who, how, why, and put some details on it so we can.
So you remember the word I used, James, opaque? Remember I said that? There is zero transparency, because look at this scene. See that? These are the deaths of Indigenous people. And I'm not saying this to be sort of disrespectful. This is in 34 years, I have never seen this kind of pileup of death investigations. There is no way to make rhyme or reason. When we ask questions about what you're doing over here or what you're doing over there, you do not get concrete results and answers. Brad DeBungy was told that 3 years ago, they were now doing a criminal investigation of Stacy's death. Still no result. It's because the resources aren't there for the OPP to keep picking up and cleaning up the mess of the Thunder Bay Police Service. So the disaster comes from leaving the Thunder Bay Police Service in place and then trying to clean up after. All you get is cold case after cold case. That's the state of the nation right now, and I wish it were better news.
So we've been doing this a long time, and you both and I have seen a lot of investigations of this nature. Who's in charge of Project Cedar? What do you know? I know you're saying you're hitting a wall, but you've hit walls before and we're able to penetrate them. So I'm asking,
James, I do not know who's in charge of Project Cedar. Stacy DeBungy's death, we do not know if it's included, if it's separate. All we know is there's no resolution to any of the deaths. So you need to talk to the minister and get them to answer your questions.
And you heard from the families, all the families tell you that they've received very little information from any other, whether it's Thunder Bay Police or any other police service that are supposed to be doing these investigations. There's none at all. So thank you. Oh, okay, we'll take one more.
We have one more question online from Bienvenue Senga. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My question is for Mr. Falconer. It's a question that's been already asked, but if you could please provide an answer in French, Mr. Falconer. C'est quoi le processus vraiment donc pour les plaintes à l'inspecteur général des services policiers et quelles sont les attentes que vous avez par rapport à ces plaintes-là?
Alors, maintenant, il y a deux plaintes pour deux familles, la famille Bileski et la famille Osberg. La troisième famille, la famille de Mackenzie Munoz, vont faire leur plainte bientôt. La situation, c'est que c'est un nouveau mandat avec des nouvelles pouvoirs. En fin de compte, on espère que la position du inspecteur général va être utilisée pour enfin terminer le service du police de Thunder Bay.
Thank you all for coming. If I could just ask the families and the leadership to stay behind the room. But thank you to the media for showing up today. Thank you much.